What's up, guys? Four-wheeler Doctor back again. Today we're working on a 680 Rincon. Got a couple of them come in that needed some valve adjustments on them. This one here is rattling pretty good. This is a 2006 model. Like I said, 680. This is one of the fuel injected models. This is one of the first, one of the first 680s they made. I don't think they started making these till maybe 5 or 4 or something like that. So anyway, it's got a rattle to it. I've had it in here before. Adjusted the valves on it a while back, and I'm going to do them again. This thing also got some transmission issues, and I'm going to try to tear that thing apart and try to figure out what it is. But I'm not 100% sure what it is, and I hate to do a video on something if I don't know how to fix it. So I'm probably not going to do a video on the transmission. But anyway, y'all stay tuned. I'll show you how to pull this thing apart and get in there to adjust your valves. Start off with, we're going to pull these side plastics off. We've got to get the gas tank out of here, and this plastic cover that's over top of the engine here to expose the valve covers. To start off with, we'll get the plastic off. This is actually wrong. This is actually supposed to be on the outside. Got a 10mm here. There's usually a push pin here here under this cover that's supposed to be here, and it's not. And there's also a push pin up under the back under here. You can't even see it unless you get down there on it. Pretty much the same setup on the other side. And to get this black cover off here around the tank, you can just take this black plastic piece here, pull it up. It pops right up like that. Push pin here, and that black plastic cover will come off, and then pretty much the side covers will come off. I'll get all that stuff pulled off, and I'll cut the camera back on right before I pull the tank off. Alright guys, got everything off. There is one push pin over here that was actually missing on this one. Just had to pull it off, and then a 10mm bolt here behind this cover that pops off. So make sure you get all that. Don't have to worry about these two push pins here. It'll all come off together. So now you just take your gas cap off, and this thing here slides forward. Little snaps there. You have to slide it forward to get those off, and then these side pieces will pretty much pop right off. This other one over here is going to be a little bit tougher because it's not in there like it's supposed to be. It's actually supposed to go up on there like that. So if it was put together right the last time, wouldn't be quite as bad this time. Alright, so there's our gas tank. On it, to get it off, start off with, pull these little rubber bands that hold it down, shove them in the bag. Got to get the 8mm headed bolts right here on the right side, same thing on the left side. There is a connector here off of the this is for the fuel level connector there, the fuel gauge, I guess you want to call that, not fuel level. It just has a little clip that you push up on it and it comes apart. And then the only other thing you have to take off once you get those bolts loose is this feed tube here for the fuel line. It's got a little clamp on it there. You can squeeze it together with some pliers, slide that tube off, and then your gas tank will pick right up. Let me get that loose, and I will cut the camera back on and show you what the next step is. Alright guys, I said that was the fuel hose. The fuel hose here, this is actually a vent line on the top. I forgot in this case the pump and all that for these bikes is down here in this container. And the way I normally do it to keep from spilling fuel everywhere, because this one here doesn't have a petcock on it, is I take this fuel line off here at the pump, and I'll take a pair of vice grips normally with some electric tape wrapped around them, and clamp it on the fuel line to cut that flow of fuel off, or otherwise it'll pour all over everything. So just do that. That'll act as your petcock, and you shouldn't have an issue with much fuel coming out, if any. So just clamp that on there, pull the hose off. In this case, it's the hose closest to the engine. Just slide that thing up, and then you can pull your fuel tank out. That's about the easiest way to do it. You can remove it from the bottom of the fuel tank, but if you do that, there's no way to cut the fuel flow off, so that you really make a mess. So pull it off there. Alright guys, so you are with the gas tank off. Next thing you need to pull off will be this intake tube. It's got a clamp down here on the air box. Loosen that up, and then there is a push pin right here on the top. You got to pull it out to get it to come off from this white plastic piece. Just like that. And once that clamp's loosened up, you can take a long screwdriver. Usually if your clamp's in the position that it was when it was originally put together, you can catch it out the side over there. And this thing's shaped kind of funny, but it will come out of here. Wiggle it around some, get it unclipped from this injector protector. Maybe that's what it's called. But just wiggle this thing out. Like I said, this is a very odd shaped snorkel. About 4 miles too long, but there you go. This little part fell off the side here. It just clamps in here, and it's supposed to have a push pin to hold it in, but it's not doing a real good job. Alright, so now you're left with this cover you got to get off. Pretty much just those little plastic pieces, or rubber pieces, they just pull right off. Slide your fuel line out, like that. And then you got to get it off of these little tabs here. Tabs there, tabs there. Your another rubber piece laid across. And then your coolant hose is also stuck in there. And one more wire here. This is the throttle cable. It's stuck into. So just pull all those out of their little holders and wiggle this thing off of here. It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, as you can see, to get it off, but a little time and patience, it'll come off. Alright, and that exposes our top ends. We can get the valve covers off. Those are 8mm headed bolts, two on each valve cover. And we need to flip over to the other side and pull the timing cover hole off. So let me get these valve covers loose. I'll switch over there and show you where the timing hole is, and then we'll see about getting it at top dead center. Alright guys, back over here on the right side of the bike. This is where your timing hole is. It's down here beside this piece of plastic. That thing right down in there. It's a 6mm Allen head. Got one on a 3/8" drive. I already broke this loose. So pull that on off. And that's what you need to look in to tell when you get it at top dead center. Start off with, before you, I guess, the first things first is if you got a good pull start, which I have a good one on this bike, and that doesn't happen very often. If the pull start works, then it makes it a lot easier to turn this thing over. If it doesn't work, you have to remove that pull start, which is a little bit of an undertaking in order to get to the bolt at the back of the engine so you can turn the motor over. But in this case, we were lucky enough to get the pull start that works. So what you want to do now is pull this thing over until this is your intake valve here on the back, till your intake valve go down and comes back up. And once it comes back up, then you're starting on your compression stroke, and you should be getting very close to top dead center at that time. This thing has a pretty good bit of compression because I can barely even pull it. So it hadn't moved yet. There it goes. Now our intake valve's going down, back up, pull it just a little bit more, and now start looking through this hole. And what you'll have is there will be two tick marks as you're coming around. There'll be 2 tick marks. Once you see those 2 tick marks, start slowing down with your pull, and you will come to a mark with a tick mark and a F. And that's where the engine fires. The very next mark is not very far away, so just barely ease around on this thing. Will be a tick mark and a T. And the easiest way to do it is just try to get that tick mark lined up close to the center of this hole. If you're just a hair off, or if just you can about still see the hole or see the T and the line in the hole, you're still good. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect to adjust the valves. Getting the timing set right is one other thing, but adjusting the valves, you can get fairly close to that T mark and your valves will still adjust out correctly. So let me see if I can get this thing turned around, and I'm gonna see if I can zoom the camera in this hole and let you see the tick mark, or the tick mark and the T once I get it around to it. All right, guys, got it at top dead center. So now you need to get your feeler gauge and the thicknesses on the gauges that you need. The intake needs to be 0.006. There you go, 0.006, and that is 6/1000 of an inch, and that's 0.15 millimeters if you got a metric feeler gauge. The exhaust is a 0.013, which is a little bit thicker, and it's a 0.33 millimeters. So it's a little thicker on the I might have said intake, but that is the exhaust. The thick one's always on the exhaust if you have a difference. Most of these Hondas all use that 6/1000 for intake and exhaust. Not real sure why the Rincon and the 420s and 500s, some of the newer 500s are different. But what you want to do is take your, in this case, 6/1000 feeler gauge and stick it between the top of your valve and your adjuster here. And this one actually doesn't need much adjusting. You can see there's still some play. And that's one other way to check to make sure you're at top dead center on the compression stroke. You should have play in all of these valves. Slide it through there, and you want a little resistance, not to where you have to really force the feeler gauge through, but to where it's not just going to slip right in and slip right out. This one here's it could use to be tightened up a little, or it could need to be tightened up a little bit. What I do is take a 10mm wrench, and you break this lock nut off, loosen it up just a hair. Sometimes these things are super tight, as may be in this case. There it goes. Break it loose to where it spins around pretty free. Stick your 6/1000 in there, and then take I usually use a short flat screwdriver, and you turn that adjuster. And you don't have to turn it very much to make a big difference, but that's actually pretty tight there. Let me try just a little bit more. Yeah, that's good and tight. So you can see as I stick the feeler gauge in there, it takes a little bit of resistance to get it to slide in there. A lot of times I try to tighten these a little on the tight side because it seems like Honda valves always get loose. So leave them a little on the tight side, and that'll keep you from having to adjust them quite so often. But now what you want to do is hold that center flathead steel and tighten that adjuster nut back, or that lock nut back up. If you don't hold that center steel, sometimes it will turn that center adjuster and throw your valve adjustment off. So that's pretty much it. Do the same thing with the front, exact same process. Put all that back together, and it should quiet your motor down a little bit. This one here, I honestly didn't hear it running very much when he first crunk it up. It was rattling pretty good. Don't know if the oil and all that was circulating in it, but I don't know if this is all of his problem or not, but it's got a pretty good rattle to it, and hopefully this will at least quiet it down some, but he may have some more issues than this. So anyway, appreciate y'all checking out my videos. Hit the like button, subscribe. Have a good night.